the madness that has been NHL coaching and the NHL coaches, which just got even worse today.
Yeah, please enlighten me on this
And
sordid saga.
When I decided we were gonna talk about this, I did not know about the other stuff that was going to get added. But a few weeks ago, the Toronto Maple Leafs fired Mike Babcock. And when he was fired, a bunch of stories started coming out about how he was abusive to players, like yelling at them, and everyone hated him, including this very weird story that he asked a rookie on the Toronto Maple Leafs to rate the effort of other players on the team and say who the laziest player was. And he said it was Mitch Marner, who's still on the Maple Leafs. He said Nazem Kadri, current Colorado Avalanche. And then Babcock went and told Kadri, like, Marner thinks you're the laziest player on the team. And the people that came out against Babcock went all the way back to his Detroit Red Wings days when he won a Stanley Cup, including one player that said that his coaching actually cost them a Stanley Cup instead of giving him credit for the one they won. Also, just a fun note on all this, the Red Wings have currently lost 12 games in a row. So that was the first domino. And then enter Akeem Alou, who's going to also be the end of our story. And he talked to someone who said and told them that when he was playing in the minor leagues, he had Bill Peters, who was the coach of the Calgary Flames a few weeks ago, as his coach. And Peters used racial slurs against him, and especially against his music and the type of music that he listens to.
Oh, I thought he was like calling him a bad rapper. So Alou is of Nigerian descent, correct?
Yeah. And so that came out, and then it came out that when Peters was the coach of the Hurricanes, he would like beat up players on the bench, like hit them and kick them, which was confirmed by current Hurricanes coach Rod Brindamore, who was on the bench during this happened, and threw Ron Francis, who's going to be the GM of the Seattle hockey team, under the bus and said, Ron knew about it, we told him. So that was ugly.
I'm still just like thrown off by who beats up hockey players. That just seems like if there's any sport that relationship would not exist for fear of being murdered yourself, would be in hockey.
Yes. Well, apparently it's common because we're going to get more of it.
Jesus.
Bill Peters got fired by the Flames. Then former Colorado Avalanche coach Mark Crawford was named. He was serving as the coach of an assistant coach in Chicago by noted NHL villain player Sean Avery, who said that Mark Crawford one time kicked him on the bench so hard that it left a mark. And so Crawford has been suspended by the Blackhawks. But the thing about Mark Crawford is he was also the coach in Vancouver who called for Steve Moore to get beaten up by Bertuzzi. And he never should have been coaching again. Like, that should have been the end of his coaching career. But he's like an old school hockey player or old school hockey guy. Mm-hmm. And this, I mean, all of this goes back to there are serious problems in the NHL and their culture. It's too old and it's too white, and the players don't feel like they have a voice. There have been people following the story who say that the other big problem is how much this is happening at lower levels of hockey. So not only in the minors, but in the juniors, which in Canada works like you go away and stay with a family and have a coach and your parents aren't there. Like, that's how it works in Canada. So these kids are in vulnerable situations having to deal with these abusive environments.
Yeah, and like you'd have way less leverage because if you've made it to the NHL, you could probably raise your voice and you have like money and influence. Whereas if you're still fighting up through the ranks and you're somewhere in northern Manitoba, that's so like. Do you think this is as big? I don't even think you're done here, but is this like as big a scandal as like Bountygate?
I think I'm hoping it will lead to more changes in Bountygate. I don't like it's awful, and we need to change like what a good coach is. I mean, even thinking about Patrick Waugh when he was here, like, you know, it was great when he knocked over the partition, and you compare that to Jared Bednar, who the most upset I've ever seen him is he kind of just gets this like disgruntled tone and is very disapproving, which I think is good. Like, I think we need more coaches like that. If the coach is the most even-keeled person on your team, that's a huge change. So all of this happened. The NHL Board of Governors is meeting, and the NHL released a statement that said, if we find out that anybody is hiding any of these allegations and doesn't come forward and tell us and the Players Association, there are going to be heavy consequences. And then, seemingly unrelated, the Dallas Stars fired former DU Pioneer head coach Mike Montgomery, or Jim Montgomery. And the explanation for why he was fired was that it was conduct that was not in line with the standards and ethics of the Stars organization or the NHL. It had nothing to do with anyone in the Stars organization. And we are left to wonder, what exactly did Jim Montgomery do? The Stars were playing really well, and nobody knows. Like, we're more than 24 hours away from this story. No one knows.
And just, like, unprofessional conduct against the standards and...
Yeah, ethics. Or, like, yeah.
Eesh.
So that's weird, like really weird.
Also really weird because, I mean, it means it's not like a crime that would then get reported on. Like, that's all stuff that would be out of the team's hands because that'd be a police report. So it's something that is very foul and shady, but not necessarily a crime.
And apparently the Stars didn't really want to fire him, but didn't really have a choice. Like, it was like whatever he did was so bad they had to. He did do a radio interview where the hosts were kind of obscene, but like, and he kind of like laughed along with it, but it wasn't that, like, it wasn't fireable. It was like that was poor judgment. Some people have suggested maybe gambling. There's a way that you could frame this where maybe there was some relationship he had that wasn't technically with someone in the organization. So that's where we are right now. And then the sort of bookend of the story.
Bringing it back to the local level.
Yeah. Akeem Alou talked about all of the scandals and disrespect that he faced in a new article that came out in the Wall Street Journal today. And the thing about Alou was he was a high prospect who was seen as a difficult player, bounced around the minor leagues and never really had an NHL career. And it feels like what that really meant was he was getting in these situations that he didn't want to be in because people were treating him terribly, and then getting traded. And one of those stops was back in 2011. The Colorado Eagles hosted a Halloween party. He was told to show up late for the party, and when he showed up, a staff member was dressed in blackface and an Alou jersey and was dressed as him for Halloween.
Great. Just all the time and planning that it goes in to do something completely stupid like that is just what always amazes me.
Well, and just the fact that, you know, everyone on the team sort of knew about it. The Eagles say they didn't know about it, which could or could not be true. They did put that staff member on leave and issue an apology to Alou. But again, just another bad look for the least diverse league in North America.
Huh. Well, NHL, I'm a new fan to a new, more committed fan. Also, black man. So I'm just asking y'all, don't do that. It would make it a lot easier to root for you if you just don't do that. And as a human being, stop beating your players. It's all around an unfavorable choice to make.
I feel like that's a good way to end it.
Thank you, yes.